The biggest myth around polyamory is all you need is love. Nope, you also need Google Calendar and plenty of cash and lots of time and an ability to emotionally regulate and work with your jealousy and your possessiveness. And yes, you also need a lot of love.
Hmm. Welcome into the expansive world of SISociety, a space where taboos dissolve, shadows become allies, and sensuality, intimacy, and sexuality are celebrated as gateways to truth. This is Taboo Talks, a podcast where no topic is off limits, and everything is held with courage, compassion, and curiosity. Together, let's shatter the limits of what we've been taught to fear and transform it into the power to live fully, freely, and authentically. Welcome back. On this episode, we are exploring consensual non-monogamy, loving freely, navigating jealousy, and creating a relationship that truly fits you. Here to guide us through all of this, we warmly welcome Dr. Sandy Peace. PsyD is a California licensed psychologist and sex therapist in private practice, providing individual, partner, and group therapy. She also uses trauma-informed, intersectional, and spiritual lenses to help clients integrate their thoughts, emotions, and somatic experiences to feel more connected to themselves and others. Dr. Peace uses collaboration and humor with clients to address the challenges they are facing. She is a generalist clinician with expertise in identity development, LGBT, polyamory, life transitions, anxiety, depression, trauma, relationships, and sexuality. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor to have you here. We are very excited about this conversation, and I just want to jump right into it. I'm curious what led you into this field? What got you into this sex therapy and polyamorous world?
Sure. Like many things for people, it was personal experience that started me on the journey. And then my intellectual curiosity and just my curiosity about humans kept me going. And that is, as I was a teenager and my own sexuality was blossoming, and I'm looking around and I'm learning the statistic that 50% of marriages end in divorce. And me, the rebellious teenager, is like, well, if that is the case, clearly there's something wrong with marriage and maybe we need to be doing something different. Fast forward a few years, I tried to do something different with my partner at the time. We had zero information, zero framework, zero words, nothing to communicate what it was we were trying to do. We just knew we didn't want a normal monogamous marriage. And let me tell you, friends, it exploded in my face. And so I really, at that point, Google was in its infancy. I got online and I'm like, how to have a relationship that isn't monogamous, and boom, polyamory popped up. And so since then, I've been very interested in studying it, learning about it, doing it, meeting people, which then led to my dissertation research on polyamorous identity development. So it's been a multi year journey, starting when I was a teenager and just really like, I just want to kiss everyone. Why isn't that okay?
I love all people. Do you think that, okay, this question just came through. Do you think
Or
that people are born polyamorous, that it's actually like something in their DNA, or do you think that it's in response to a childhood trauma or a wound? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. God, I wish I had a better answer for this. I almost feel like this is the same question we were asking about people who were gay back in like the 90s. Like, is it nature or is it nurture? And I think people can choose to be in polyamorous relationship structures and not feel like it's necessarily a natural thing. But most of the poly folks I've talked to are like, no, this is who I am. Like, this is a natural thing. And I know for myself personally, I get to know people kinesthetically. So I want to hug you. I want to kiss you. I want to feel you to get to know you, and yeah, I just have a big heart. And I know the two of you have big hearts too. But there's a difference between also loving big heartedly and wanting to include sexuality in that. And so that's the piece. Like most people can get, oh, I can love expansively, especially when you start thinking about, parents who have more than one child. Like, of course, we love our family, we love our friends, we love our kids. But then when we start to add sexuality in, I actually think more of us than not would like to be able to do that. But we've got such deep, deep, and long standing cultural conditioning that sex has to be controlled. Sex has to be just as a dyad within marriage. And that's some super intense conditioning right there.
Yeah, and like all the religious conditioning too, because I grew up in an extremely religious family and Christian school my whole life. And
Mhm.
this kind of leads to my next question is like, is maybe someone who comes from a religious background or just grew up with watching all these Disney movies and cultural conditioning, but they have like a vision or a desire to be practicing consensual non-monogamy in some way, is that enough to actually allow that person to bridge into this new way of relating? Or do you feel like it is just something that you are born with?
I do think that we make a very big paradigm shift from a monogamous paradigm to a polyamorous or a more open relating paradigm, because we are really conditioned in this monogamous one person soulmate paradigm. I mean, and Disney fucked up my marriage. Oh, can I say that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Disney messed up my marriage because I thought you get married and then it's happily ever after. No, no,
Mhm.
that's when the work really starts. And
Mhm.
so I feel like we've got to make this paradigm shift into really saying, wow, I can love more than one person. I can be committed to more than one person. I can be faithful to more than one person, because those are all words used by religion, fidelity, commitment, that make us think, oh, we can only give that to one person. No, we can be committed and faithful and loving to a lot of different people, even when it includes sexuality as well.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
beautiful. I honestly, I have, well, we talked about this briefly when we had you on the show before about how I tried polyamory, and you're like, maybe you're not polyamorous. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I am. I think I'm monogamous. But just this concept of like, I mean, being able to love many people. Uh, I still have this story that like there cannot be a successful polyamorous relationship like in the world. And I know it's a story, right? It's my experience. And because, my direct relationship to it didn't work. And so, yeah, I want to hear the words out of your mouth that like I have seen and witnessed, or I am in a successful polyamorous relationship. I think it will just clear something in my system. I just really just want
Yeah, well,
to know
well,
that.
let me start with the basic principle of, we think that a good monogamous relationship is one that lasts forever. It lasts our lifetime and beyond, right? And what we need to really understand in this paradigm shift to non-monogamy is that people change. I don't know about the two of you, but I've lived many different lifetimes in this one lifetime because I've changed, I've upgraded, or I've shifted, or I'm a different person now than I was, you know, hell, a week ago, right? And so the thing about polyamorous relationships is there is more change and volatility. And so that is something that is often equated with failure, not success. But let me give an example of some folks who I know and love, like the poly wise woman. So, she and her husband decide to get married, have a child. The nanny comes to help. And then the nanny becomes a part of this loving triad, and then the nanny has to leave because they need to take care of their ill parent. And then someone new comes in, and someone new comes in, and someone leaves, and someone transitions from lover to friend, Right. So there's a lot of shifting and changing that can happen if we start to hold that, well, I can be connected to people in the way that makes sense right now. If it,
Yeah, I feel like there's almost this like it's so terrifying because there's such this sense of failure that if you get a divorce or your relationship ends and after you're married or with someone, then it's a failure, right? And
right.
I think like if we're less attached and we're just living more surrendered and more authentically, I think that the polyamorous world and kind of style of relating allows that surrender and natural cyclical nature of everything, including friends, including loved ones, to just happen without such a grip and like attachment and a story of failure. And then I think that creates more like authenticity, whether you could be with that person forever, right? You could be with your polyamorous partner till you die, but you're doing it because you're consciously choosing to do that every single day when you could choose other things and it be okay. So it's like in the long run, I feel like there is just more authentic like choosing and loving and without the fear of failure or the labels around that.
Yeah. Well, I even think how in monogamous couples who divorce at some point and then they figure out how to be co-parents together, or they figure out how to be friends even after the romantic relationship is like for me, that's polyadjacent. I don't know, like it's interesting because even our view of monogamy has widened to include loving more than one person, because monogamy used to mean you were a virgin when you got married and that was the only person you were with. That is not how we do relationships anymore. Most people are serial monogamists, or sometimes there's a little bit of overlap even, right? And so, in a way, we are loving multiple people in our lifetime. Most people just do it one person at a time, sexually speaking. But if we really dig, a lot of people have overlap too. They like meet their new person before they've let go of their person that they know it's not working with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or they even have the misconception, like I did, that if I start to have feelings for someone new, it means something is wrong with the old relationship.
Oh
And
man.
my monogamous conditioning said, oh, because I'm feeling something for someone new, then I must have to break up with this person. Polyamory says, no, don't get rid of the person who's already there. Invite someone new in, invite that new love in, invite that new vitality in, and keep your connections.
I think I'm
But
having a really big epiphany around this right now
yeah.
because you just spoke into a very personal experience for me where I was in a long-term alternative relationship. We shifted through many different dimensions. We were seeing people together, then we started seeing people separately and moved more into polyamory. And then I met someone else and fell in love with them. And right now in this moment, I'm realizing that I had monogamous conditioning because he was like my long-term partner was like, why can't we just still be together? Like you love him, you love me, like let's just be together. And I'm like, no, it can't be that way. I have to break up with you. I have to, it's all or nothing. It's black or white. And I didn't have the capacity or the consciousness at that time to even know that was an option. Like he was suggesting it to me and I was like, nope, I'm leaving you. And there was shame in it. There was so much kind of swirled into it. But yeah, this is a powerful moment for me. Thank you for speaking into that.
You're welcome. And thank you for sharing that personal story.
Yeah, it was tender, it was really tender. We were together for 8 years and we moved through a lot of dimensions together and there were things that weren't working that when I met this person were working. So I felt, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, I felt malnourished. I felt hungry for those parts. And I just kind of was like, okay, these pieces have been, super malnourished with. I'm going to just head in this direction. When in retrospect, like they were, they had such beautiful elements and they were individuals. It was like, it was an apple and a pear, and they both have such delicious qualities. And had I known now what I know then, things would have been different. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that is the polyamorous paradigm, is that, there's just my belief that every new person that we interact with is going to reflect back to us a different part of ourselves. So there's an opportunity for learning and growing, and we'll do that for them too. And in polyamory, there's this openness to deepen that relationship without fear that we're gonna lose another relationship. So there's a freedom to connect with someone new deeply and fully, even in the realm of sexuality, that at least I hunger and crave for in this lifetime. I want to connect with as many people as possible, not necessarily sex, but I'm sure the two of you are too. We're multidimensional beings. We need a lot of people to bounce off of to learn about ourselves, and yeah, being able to welcome that in, rather than I've noticed a lot in monogamy, and especially when I first got married, I gained like 10 pounds. And I realized it was because I had to shut down my sexuality in order to not be attracted to or attract other people. Like my sexuality was not flowing. But when I let myself be polyamorous, all of a sudden my sexuality is flowing. I'm more vivacious. I'm more outgoing. I'm happier. Everyone gets more sex, So for me, I realized that was something I did to try and keep myself monogamous, because that's not how I am. So.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, go Elf.
yeah, were you gonna say something?
I just was seeing an analogy, like you're explaining it so beautifully, Sandy, and I just kept seeing this like really stable, sturdy house that is us, that is our center. And then when we meet someone, we're adding an addition to the house, right? We're building a new room, a new porch, a new bathroom. We're outfitting the basement. It's just like you're just continuously adding on to create more space for more love, as opposed to shutting a door or demolishing the house and saying, okay, I have to build a new house now. It's just this really dynamic, delightful thing.
Mm, yeah. Well, this conversation is so juicy so far, and we're going to continue to dive even deeper into the core of all of this world of consensual non-monogamy. But first, we're going to just take a quick break to hear a message from our affiliates, and we'll be right back. Listen up. I have to let you in on the most revolutionary pleasure program I've ever experienced. I'm completely obsessed. The Vita Coaching Certification is one of the most advanced trainings on the planet for sex, love, and relationship coaches, and it's completely transformed my life. It's not just a coaching program. It's a dream erotic education, fusing tantra, neuroscience, IFS, and somatics, full of embodied, juicy pleasure practices. I've shed layers of sexual and welcome back to Taboo Talks. We are here with Dr. Sandy Peace as we continue to explore the taboo realms of polyamory. And that leads me into my question that I have for you, Sandy, which is, what is the biggest mistake that you see clients making when they're trying to open their relationships, or just mistakes that they're making in their current polyamorous dynamics?
Sure.
So if you feel the call to transform
God,
your
so
life
many.
and rise as a coach that this world desperately
The first
needs,
one that popped
get
to my
going
head,
and say
especially for
yes.
people who are new at polyamory, is I call it the kid in the candy store. It's like, great, I'm in an open relationship now. I can date everyone. Woo! And then they proceed without a whole lot of care or caution for the impact of their actions to try and date everyone all at once. I recommend a little bit slower process. It is very exciting to all of a sudden go ahead and flirt shamelessly, flirt with everyone. Before you dive in, slow down, take a breath, and double check what is the impact of this going to be on my current relationship, my schedule, my finances, my own time with myself. That is something a lot of people forget to factor in, is time with themselves. Like I had a friend at one point who I think was dating 5 people, and they were trying to go real deep with everyone, and they were just like frazzled all the time. I'm like, when was the last time you had some alone time? They're like, alone time, what's that? So they realize, oh, I have spread myself too thin. So spreading yourself too thin is kind of an early poly mistake. Folks who've been doing this for a while are actually very, very picky and boundaried about who they let close to them. I'm even at the point now where it's like, sadly, I can't connect deeply with every single person I meet. There's just not enough hours in the day. And so I've really used like community gatherings as a place, as a container to deepen connections. And so I might meet people, especially folks I'm not feeling drawn to like date or have sex with, but want to be friends with, want to be community members with. That's the only time. I just don't have time to go like, hey, you want to have some coffee? You want to have some dinner? It doesn't work anymore. And I had a moment of grieving about that about a month ago. I'm like, oh, I don't have time for everyone in the world. And so that's a couple of the mistakes, but there's certainly more. And I'm sure as we're talking, we'll get into more of them.
Yeah, that time one is huge. And I've already, like personally, I already feel like having my partner, having my business, having my alone time, having my girlfriends, and going to community events, I'm like, I don't even know. I would have to like cut some of those things down or cut them out to even have time for like another deep relationship. So yeah, it's really interesting. We can like our eyes can kind of be bigger sometimes than our stomachs in a way.
Totally.
But I love what you're mentioning about community gatherings. It's like kind of using those to go really deep with those people that we feel connected with. And then maybe there's like one or two people out of that space that we are like, okay, I want to invite you over for dinner, or let's go do this adventure together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to just jump in that we don't have to go deep with everyone we meet. Some people are just going to be that person we have hot sex with once a month, once a
Hmm.
year,
Thank you.
you know.
And what do you see
Thanks
from
for
like
saying
your
that.
experience and your clients' experience? I know this is going to be different for everyone depending on, if they have kids, their jobs, all these things, their libido. But what do you typically see is like an an what's the word I'm looking for? Like a reasonable amount of partners that people can actually sustain, like truly if they want to go deep and have like intimate connection.
Yeah. Again, it just really depends on people's energy level. Like I'm an 8 hours a night sleep kind of gal. Those
Mhm.
people who are like 4 hour a night people, they can have more partners. They just get more stuff done than I do, and interact with more people. So also it depends on, again, the depth of connection, the type of connection. Like say someone is like really into sex parties and they've got their like people that they see at a sex party, so they might have friendly, snuggly, sexy time during different community parties that revolve around
Mhm.
sex. That might be their relationship and it's contained there. It might
Yeah.
not even necessarily come into day-to-day life, but they might have their nesting partner or their anchor partner who they live with or they don't live with. Um, so again, I hate to say kind of three is the right number. Because everyone's a bit different. And like I said, some people are more kind of comets. They like come into your orbit, you see them, you love them up, and then they leave, and then you don't see them again for a while. Yeah, but it is like you have to take into consideration job, kids, self-care, partners into your poly count. So your poly count is kind of how many hours in a day, how much energy do I have, and what can I realistically do? So
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
really need to be honest with themselves about that.
Yeah.
And some
And I,
people,
And I'm sure also if there's like combining, like if it's you and your partner and you're also bringing someone else in,
right,
then that time is shared.
right.
So then you have more time with more partners too. So there's lots of different equations.
Yes.
definitely not a one size fits all. And
Yeah.
I would love to zoom into your personal experience if you're open to it. And just when you meet someone, how do you navigate your polyamory conversationally? Like, do you speak into it immediately? Are you setting boundaries? Are you sharing your desires? Like, are you open to sharing more about that process and what that looks like?
Sure. So both in online dating and in person. Usually when I'm meeting people in person, it is going to be at polyamorous events where I know people are already into that. I put on my dating profile, I am solo polyamory, like, so people kind of know out the gate, because I've definitely seen people run into the issue of, oh, I didn't tell them I was polyamorous. And then we're getting along. And then date 5, I tell them, and there's a big freak out. Or after we've had sex for the first time, then I tell them. That is too late, friends. And so personally, I'm already walking into a situation where people know, but then I will really tell people this is kind of connections I'm looking for right now. So personally, I'm solo polyamorous. I live alone. I like living alone. I've lived in many with partners in like intentional housing. Like I've done a lot of different living with people. I'm good on my own. But I love to invite people into my space. I love to entertain. Um, Perhaps I've been readying myself for a partner who might be with me more often. Like I got a king size bed. I bought 2 paddle boards instead of 1, right? So I am currently at this stage in my life, I've lived in the same place for like 5 years, which is a record for me since graduating college. I usually move quite often, Sagittarius. So now I'm like, oh, maybe I would be more open to a more consistent person. I don't know if I want to live with them, but so I tell people when I meet them, this is what I'm looking for. And some people will be like, yeah, me too. And some people are like, you're hot, let's screw. And I'll be like, okay, that works too. You know, so sometimes that's all it is also.
Yeah.
Kind of going off of that, like, and Heather and I were talking about this earlier. It's like, what if, I know the word polyamory means like many loves. And if you talk to like different people around how they practice non-monogamy, it's very different. Some people just want to swing or just want to have like sexual encounters with many people. Other people, it's really about just keeping your heart open and they want to go really deep with people when it's like really connected. But like, what happens if are just wanting a more like sexual experience, and then it turns into more, and people get attached because that's what happens typically when we have sex, and then there's all the attachment styles at play, and then the trauma from the childhood. And I'm just curious, like, when all this like kind of complex dynamics arise around sex, attachment, childhood trauma, all these things, like how do you navigate that and how do you guide your clients through that in a way that doesn't create, because I have a fear that it's just going to create so much drama and so much like chaos, and I'm not really available for that, and that it could be confusing as especially I think as a woman. I don't want to like gender stereotype, but I just know myself, I can get very confused when I start letting people into my womb space. So yeah, I'm just curious like how you navigate all of that with your clients and personally.
Sure. I'll say around letting people into your womb space, different people, sometimes just leaving a couple days between lovers to give everything a chance to integrate and settle and then be ready and open for someone else. Like that's always worked better for me when I've tried to have like back-to-back encounters, or it doesn't work. My body is like, what is happening? So some people can do that. Some people can go to a sex party and have sex with 5 people that night and they're very happy. So again, it's really honoring where your body is at. Um, oh, that was a very long, let me, I lost my train of thought because I got caught on the very last thing.
You have a primary partner and then you have something casual and then one
Yeah.
partner falls in love or
Yes.
starts to
Yes.
feel something.
Yep.
Just attachment styles and trauma in general.
Yes. 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 So, um, it is so wild how almost every poly person cool I've worked with somehow configures their relationship situation to mirror their family system. It's like uncanny how that happens. Just how we can do that in monogamy. We find that partner who's like matches our dysfunctions like so perfectly. That can happen in polycules too. And I'm always fascinated. But just like in a monogamous situation, we can, if we found ourselves in that, that's when we slow things down and become very clear and conscious of like, I mean, this is why doing personal work is so important. Like, oh, here's my wounds, here's my triggers, here's my fears. All of a sudden, I'm finding myself in a situation where this is ripe for it happening. Let's talk about it. Like, let's talk with my partners and say, hey, this is really tender for me. You know, when you go out with someone else, it's going to be really tender for me. And I'm going to need a lot of sweet care before you leave. And I'm going to have to get myself surrounded by friends when you're gone, or have something set that I want to do for myself. And then when you come home, I'm going to need to like reconnect with you and reaffirm our attachment because I know I'm going to freak out, you know. But, and that's where knowing yourself, communicating with your partner is so important. Which there's something so special about polyamory is because, like you said, everyone does it a different way. Even their definitions of the same words might be different. We're kind of forced to clearly communicate. Well, first forced to get real with ourselves about what do I actually want, who am I actually. Then we need to communicate with the other person, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, what are we co-creating, you know. And then we have to ask for what we need in the course of relating. And some people are going to be able to do that and engage in that, and some people are not. You know, sometimes the communication is nice and explicit. Sometimes the communication is implicit or more subtle. So sometimes there's just a clash of communication styles. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is all really beautiful. The dialogue that you modeled around kind of asking, communicating with your partner before, and then having a plan during, and then also after, that's like my dream scenario. And I'm also curious, like, you know, what's the boundary of this is my responsibility to self-soothe versus like this is something that I can bring to my partner and ask because I know that I guess I've had a tendency in my wounding to need like feel like asking a lot from my partner to soothe my nervous system, and I do want to feel safe to co-regulate, but I also know that there's like a boundary of like, okay, this is mine, this is yours. So how do you kind of like navigate that maybe with a partner that's not always going to be available to do everything with you?
Sure. I think one of the ways to find out for yourself, is this a me thing or a us thing, is to look at yourself and look at your behaviors, and are you trying to control the other person so that you can control your emotional response. So a lot of people in polyamory will set up agreements like no penetrative sex or no sleeping in our bed because they're trying to regulate their own jealousy trigger and the emotion that goes with it. And so that is not to say there can't be agreements like that. There sure can. And you sure should respect what is the boundary, and it should be co created. But if you're starting to slip into a power struggle where you're trying to control them and they're rebelling against it, then we need to really slow things down and reach an agreement about what's okay and what's not okay. But that also means if I'm trying to control everything and everyone around me because I don't feel safe, that means I've got to slow down and I've really got to work with, okay, what's happening for me. If we've got a partner who's available, we can tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through. And I know that it's my responsibility. And I also need your help. And sometimes it's not a conversation. Sometimes it is just really body to body, hug each other for 30 seconds until you get that breath, and you can connect and regulate down. If your partner is not giving you that, maybe they're avoidant, you know. If you're asking for that like 30 times a day, okay, that might be too much. um again, it's just so personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
this is a tender topic.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I think the bulk of my relationships, I've dated a lot of avoidant uh,
Mhm.
partners, and Alfina, I believe, has as well too. So I'm curious, just from that particular angle, like how somebody can navigate that and open up a conversation with someone who tends to be avoidant and shut down around
Sure.
these types of things. Or is it just a thing like, hey, we're not aligned, we shouldn't actually be together because I need more co-regulation kind of thing?
Sure. Well, for me, this is where here's the joy of polyamory. And one of my mottos is I can ask for something from someone, and if they can't give it to me, I can get it from someone else.
Mm.
And I also need to adjust my expectations of who this person is going to be in my life. So if I'm wanting a deep connection with someone and they are not able or willing to do it, I need to pull back my hopes and expectations that they're going to fill that role. We can still have hot sex, we can still date and have fun, but I am no longer going to expect that from them, because now I'm just hurting myself if I'm asking them to do something they don't want to do or they can't do. And that all of a sudden frees me up to be like, let's just enjoy what we do have. But I'm going to keep looking for that person who's going to give me the emotional depth and safety and stability that I'm actually craving.
Mm.
Right. And so this is the transition piece of like, we can still relate, but I'm going to stop being angry and resentful that you're not doing what I want you to do. I'm going to accept, okay, this is who you are. This is what you can give. Let's just enjoy that. I'm shifting.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
so
also like what I've been finding too is like that I can co-regulate. I had this story that like I need my partner to always co-regulate with me, but it's like we have a whole community of friends and people that are like happy to co-regulate with a hug, that aren't necessarily having their central nervous systems triggered the fuck out of, that are like there fully. And it's not, sometimes it's like we really need that with our partner. I'm not trying to like downplay that, but I've just been learning that there's so many ways I could co-regulate with a tree. You know, I can co-regulate with my cat. And then what I've found in my own like experiencing of that is when I don't like need it from my partner in my anxious style attachment, and he feels like he's safe, more like safe, then he like actually just opens up and gives it to me voluntarily. So
Right.
it's like also that's my work as the anxious one to like learn how to self-soothe and be able to meet in a secure way where it's not like we're not trying to get something from each other, but we're both bringing, and then we're able to like bring that bring that together in a secure way.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, and let's see. I have a question for you on a more like positive note. What are the deepest benefits that you have personally experienced or seen your clients experience when practicing ethical non-monogamy?
Yeah. I think one you just kind of mentioned, it is finding yourself surrounded by an interconnected community, a community that is connected by love and by fun and sex too. Like recently, I went to like a joint birthday party for my poly people in LA, where I lived for several years. And to just walk in, I hadn't seen them all for some of them I hadn't seen for 10 years, but to walk in and just be like, oh, I'm home. These are my people. And it just felt so lovely and connected and warm to get hugs and to see everyone as they developing, see how the relationships have maybe shifted and changed. That was fun too. Like, okay, who's with who now? Okay, what? But it was just this fun, interconnected, like tribe, yummy situation. Um, the other piece for me personally is not feeling shackled. Like my heart doesn't feel like it's in a cage. It feels like I have the freedom to connect with people in the way that makes sense. I don't have some arbitrary boundary around, oh, you can't connect with them because you're sexually attracted to them, right? Or because someone feels threatened. So I feel that freedom. And again, with that freedom comes the ability to keep growing and learning and seeing different angles of myself and how I interact with different people. Um, but really it is feeling just filled up with love, like knowing I've got a whole list of people, a whole sometimes community of people that I can reach out to for those hugs, that conversation, that, I forgot to make plans for Friday night. Who's free? Um, and it's connected in a different way through sex and relationship, not just friendship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I've just been experiencing so much heart expansion just from the dynamic that I've been in already. And I'm welcoming in more and more of that too. And it doesn't even necessarily always need, like you said, it's not really about the sexuality. It's to me, it's more about the heart. And then like for me anyway, I'm more demisexual. And when I feel really safe and connected to someone, then that's when I want to be more sexual. But of course, everyone, has different motives and they're all beautiful. The last question I want to ask before we segue into another little break is just I want to really hear the importance of boundaries specifically, boundaries, agreements, and communicating these when it comes to polyamorous dynamics. And also, if there's any other skills that you really think are super important to hone in to be successful and thrive in these relationships. And when it comes to boundaries and communication, um, yeah, like why is that important? Because I feel like something I hear a lot is, well, I just want to be free. I want complete freedom. And we did a whole topic, like many episodes around the importance of boundaries kind of being the sandbox that allows you to actually be able to feel safe to be expansive and free. And yeah, something my partner and I have been talking a lot about. He's like 5 planets in Sagittarius, so he's kind of like, no boundaries, total freedom. And I'm like, that doesn't feel safe to me at all. Like, I need boundaries. So, just from being a sex therapist, working with so many clients, like, can you just tell us about the importance of those and anything else that's important to master?
Sure. Okay. Quick one off the top of my head is the safer sex talk. Like we have to have boundaries around how are we going to have sex with other people and what levels of, safer sex practices are we going to do. During COVID, we all actually learned how to have the safer sex talk. We just did it around COVID. So I'm just going to put that as a bookmark. But again, the kinds of boundaries people are going to have is going to vary on what type of relationship structure they find themselves in. So like right now I'm working with a married couple who's been married for like, I don't know, 15 years, has kids. They're wanting to open up their relationship. She's like, this is who I am. This is great. He's like, I love this in theory, but I'm freaking the fuck out, you know? And um, so they are really like, we are primary family, our family is first, no other relationships can get in the way. She wants to date more deeply, he wants to date more casually, right? And so whoever they end up dating has to understand we're probably never going to live together, we're not going to have kids together, we're, this is the boundaries of our relationship. And so for me, someone entering into a relationship with one of them has to really be okay with, this is going to be about fun and sex and maybe a road trip or two and maybe some deep connection, emotional connection, but they're not going to be my ride or die, right? Which may or may not work for people. Some people are like, yes, I just want fun and freedom. That's great. I've got a married person. Awesome. I don't have to worry about meeting all their partner needs. They have someone else to do that. Excellent. But that's one of those situations where if someone is looking for a partner, dating one of them is not going to be the right fit, right? Because that's their boundaries of like, this is our family structure and we're not changing that structure. Whereas with people who are more relationship anarchists or who are solo polyamory, like my boundary is I'm not getting married again. At least at this point, I never say no to anything. I am also Sagittarius and I'm like, yeah, if it works. Um, but at this moment in time, like I really don't want to get married and I still want deep connections with people. Right. And so whoever I'm with is just gonna need to know I'm not having children. I'm beyond that point. Actually, I physically can't. I'm not probably not going to live with you, but we can connect. Let's figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that's quite the answer you're looking for, though. I think there's something.
No, it helped me like actually see that my partner does have boundaries because like he has a kid already and he doesn't want to live with anyone. So I'm like, okay, I see that those are his boundaries. I think like um for me, like with the story you just told, it sounds familiar in our dynamic where it's more like he is like, oh, this is who I am. And I'm like, oh, had a shit ton of religious conditioning, but I want that. Like in my mind, I want it. I see the vision of it. And so I guess my question is like, if you are like taking steps in that direction, um, maybe like having certain boundaries in place to help someone feel safe to open up without fully slingshotting them into like the complete openness of everything, but in a way that like is okay in their nervous systems and the importance of communicating those boundaries and respecting those boundaries and like what works with clients who are making that journey, you know?
Well, and I think the idea of, you're right, not slingshotting someone, but titrating. It's like with like there's actually a classic psychology technique called systematic desensitization, where you literally list your hierarchy of fears. Here is the most extreme thing I would be afraid of in polyamory, which is my partner falling in love with someone else and leaving me for them. Like that's usually someone's worst fear. And then we just bring on down to like, maybe I get triggered when you're texting with someone that you met online, right? And really working on, let me think about my partner texting someone they met online, and calming my nervous system, making sure I'm in a relaxed state, thinking about that. If I get elevated, bring myself back down, right? Um, so I do trauma work with people because that fear didn't come out of nowhere. Usually in couples or dyads, I am going to speak just about dyads. About 20% of your whatever is happening is about the situation happening now. The other 80% is something that happened way back, maybe before you even remember, that's getting triggered and making everything exacerbated. And so that's where we really want to lovingly do some individual trauma work, but maybe invite your partner in to understand, wow, this is what you're going through, and to build some empathy so that they can go, oh, okay, this isn't just about me. I'm not the bad guy, like making her feel this way, but this is how I can support her through this moment.
So kind of working your way through those fears one at a time, reassociating them with safety in your body, in your nervous system, kind of like the window of tolerance, right? You like want to go to the edge of your window, so you're expanding, but you don't want to go outside of it because then you're re-traumatizing and you're actually what I think happens is you end up going backwards again. And if you, it's more, to me, it feels like a slow, steady, sustainable growth versus a slingshot.
Yes. Yes. And so that might look like you sitting on the couch next to your partner while they're texting someone, and be like, okay, let me breathe, give me a hug. Okay. They're texting. I'm safe. Nothing. I'm here with my partner. Like everything's good. I don't have to.
Mm. This is really beautiful. Golden, golden nuggets of advice. Thank you so much for your wisdom and these just embodied codes that you've been living and breathing. We're going to take one more short break with an affiliate message again. So stay with us and we'll be back in a jiff.
Want to anonymously be featured on our show? Then head to the link in our show notes to join our email list and get our Taboo Talks card game free. Inside, you'll find juicy taboo questions that turn vulnerability into connection. Play solo or with someone you trust, and maybe even share your truth on our show. Let's make it safe and sexy to talk about it all. See you there.
I experienced pleasure in solitude, certainly while masturbating, but that's too obvious. I would say in the small moments when I'm dropped into my body, in the moments when I'm exploring something sexy and erotic online, maybe finding new videos to watch. I experience pleasure in nature when it's just me and the trees and the birds, and I find that pleasurable, deeply, deeply pleasurable.
Well, 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 we are back. Thank you for staying tuned in with us. And Sandy, it's been really incredible diving deep into unconventional relating with you in this episode of Taboo Talks. And before we wrap, we would love to know if someone listening is curious about opening up to any style of non-monogamous relating, but has only ever been in a monogamous style relationship. What are 3 practical steps that you would share to help them make the transition with ease and empowerment?
Or step 1 is read, like educate yourself about what the heck this is, because none of us got educated in this. We are all very well versed in monogamy. So read some books, listen to some podcasts, talk to people who have done it before. So that personal education. The other is, if they're partnered, you've got to talk to your partner. Like, you really have to talk to them. And if you are partnered and you're the one who's been reading and you're excited, and the other person is, you're like, hey, let's try polyamory. And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Don't start dating. You're already way ahead of them. Then they have to do the reading, right? And then, and or discussion. Like, some people are not going to read the books, but you have to start talking to each other about, why do you want to do this? I think that's the number one thing couples who are trying to open up really need to understand from each other is, why do you want to open up? Because most people are going to go to, I'm not enough. That's why you're opening up.
Mm.
And that's not usually why. It might be that I need more, but it doesn't mean you're not enough, which can be a tricky distinction. But the other kind of rule of thumb is to kind of go at the pace of the slowest person. Okay, the slow person can't just like dig their heels in and not do anything. That's not fair either. But we also need to take into account that they might need to catch up. They might need to get fully on board. And so the person who's like ready and raring to go needs to just slow down and make sure that their partner is really truly on board. There's high potential for coercion, especially in relationships that have been together for a long time and they're trying to open up, because the person who has not been thinking about it might be like, I love you so much, I want to stay with you, I see that you really want this, I'll go ahead and try for your sake, but they aren't trying for their own sake. And we need to really get that to shift to, no, I'm trying because I also want to try this for myself, not just to keep you. Right. Was that 3? There's probably so many more.
If there's any more, you can go ahead. Maybe just like something you said too. It's like, how can you tell the difference if you're opening up from a place of lack and feeling like the relationship isn't giving you something, and then when you're opening up from a place of like overflow?
Sure. It's interesting because sometimes opening from a place of lack can be okay. For instance, was friends with a woman who, like, many years into a marriage, grown children, shared assets, discovered, oh my God, I'm a lesbian. I've been married to this very sweet man all my life, but I actually want to be with a woman. So she opened up their relationship so that she could date women. And he was like, well, I don't want to divorce you, but okay, I guess we're doing this. And it took him a minute. I think even at some point they didn't live together, and she lived with her new partner, who was a woman. And then he started dating someone, right? And so there's a way that there was nothing wrong with him. Their relationship was great. They chose to stay married because they wanted to keep that family atmosphere going. They just then brought in other people to that family. So there was a lack. He was not a woman. He could never be a woman. Right? But it created now abundance, because in their married life together, she was very unhappy. He was unhappy. They weren't having sex, right? But now all of a sudden, oh, great, we can be friends. We're both having sex. We've all got our family. Lovely. That's different than I just know I'm polyamorous and I'm just going to be abundant about it. And a lot of folks who are feeling that are often not partnered, unless they've gotten married very young before they had that awakening. So again, I feel like I could talk about that like for half an hour, just that question.
Yeah, any final tips and tricks for how to really thrive in this whole world of open relating polyamory?
Yeah. Well, maybe a trick that I use with everyone, not just people who are polyamorous. And it is like every time you start to have a conversation with someone, to really start from your heart, to really look them in the eyes and say, I love you. I love you and I love our relationship. And I'm feeling this way. And I'm needing something. And I have this idea. Right. So, but to really start with that place of love rather than resentment or fear or anger or lack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel like we should do a part 2 on this. I don't know if you're open to that, but like I'm just thinking metamors and all the other things that we could go into. It's just so juicy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just for time's sake, we're gonna wrap this episode, and it's truly been such a pleasure to connect around this. I know and I pray that this episode really helps so many people who are in this dynamic, who are curious, who are navigating it, who don't have as many resources. Maybe if you feel like you can send us some books and podcasts, we'll link those in the show notes for people also who are exploring. That'd be really helpful. So make sure to check out the show notes for those resources, and then also to connect with Sandy, to connect to her therapy if you're going through this. She's an incredible therapist, obviously, you can tell from this conversation. And stay tuned for the next episode, part 2, as we dive more into this. Yeah, I feel that feels like a full fuck yes in my body. We can say fuck, that's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And before we end, I'm going to ask you if that feels available for you in this moment to just make one sound, somatic sound, to describe how you feel after this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Sandy.
Thank you for tuning into Taboo Talks, where some truths need to be spoken and some silences need to be broken. Each week we come together with diverse minds to explore and integrate the dance between shadow and light. Join our community and stay connected to all of the exciting movements of our mission through our website at SISociety.world, where you can sign up for our email list. This is the best way to stay updated on new taboo topics, episodes of our podcast, and even find live events near you. On our website, you'll also find links to follow our podcast, Taboo Talks, on platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. For those who want to dive even deeper, you can join our private WhatsApp community to engage in meaningful discussions about taboo topics with members from all over the world. So don't miss a moment. Visit SISociety.world and share these conversations to support the expansion of our mission. Together, we can spark the change the world needs. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and remember, the only thing taboo is not talking about it.